Paul Thomas with Pharmaceutical Manufacturing, and today I'm talking with Paul Priebe, and Paul is the Director of Marketing for Sartorius Stedim Biotech. And Paul is also a member of the PDA Single-Use Task Force, as well as the Bioprocess Systems Alliance. So some key organizations in the industry that are helping to move single-use technology forward. Paul, what are some of the challenges in regards to single-use technology and automation, which has been a traditional challenge in the industry?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. To say a traditional challenge really recognizes the fact that as single-use, often started at small scale where automation was not really part of the landscape anyway. But as single-use grew into larger and larger volumes, very traditionally, processors lost a lot of the process analytics or monitoring or control that was part of what they were able to do in traditional stainless steel systems. An example I always give is the most basic operation in any bioprocess would be a normal flow filtration step. And in any normal flow filtration step, typically you monitor the differential pressure across the membrane filter. It's a sterilizing function. It's a validated process oftentimes, and the differential pressure is one of the critical attributes of performing that function. Oftentimes in a single-use filtration application, they simply don't do that anymore. We don't monitor pressure. So that's just a very present example. But as we get into more and more complex operations, the need for process automation and control and monitoring, especially in the face of the FDA's PAT initiative, is really a challenge for manufacturers.
Well, we've had a proliferation of sensors.
That's right.
Proliferation of single-use technologies in general, but it seems like there's a need for somebody or some organizations to kind of integrate everything and bridge that gap that we have.
Yeah, I think the supplier base, the single-use supplier base, fully recognizes this gap. I mean, it's no secret. And in fact, here we are at Interfex today, and if you walk the halls, you see the beginnings of this. But it's not there yet. Certainly, if you look at the array of possibilities for pH, conductivity, dissolved oxygen, a variety of process analytics that people need, the maturity of it isn't there yet, the integration isn't there yet, and certainly the supplier base sees that, and we're working in the right direction, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, what kinds of things need to happen? I mean, how can you integrate these things more? Well,
first of all, we need to bring smart solutions to the market that will pass the light of day. They need to be validatable. They need to be able to be integrated into licensed drug product manufacturing kind of environment. So really the burden is on the supplier base to bring solutions to market that simply make sense, are validatable, that we've done all our homework as a supplier to be able to do that. There's also, we can't provide to our customers sort of a box of Legos. We have to provide them a box of Legos that fit together and give them what they need. Our personal approach, SSB's approach, is to do just that and configure unit operations so that we bring everything together that's needed for a unit operation in one kit as sort of platform technologies. That's our answer. Other people are doing it different ways. But that's, I think, just the beginning, but that's clearly the need.
Do you envision a scenario where you have entire unit operations initially that are hybrids of traditional stainless steel and single-use, and then eventually moving to nearly completely single-use?
Well, yeah. I mean, there are certainly scale limitations, or there are certain unit operations that just the economics don't justify single-use. At the end of the day, the reason why single-use is growing is because it makes sense. If you look at the impact of cost of goods, and this is in much of the literature already, I won't repeat it, but depending on a couple of different drivers on the financial models, in most cases, single-use is the right answer. There are process steps where single-use simply is not the right answer. Take Protein A as an example. Your capture step in a MAB process the Protein A is just prohibitively expensive and cannot be a single use. So hybrid systems are really the answer. Making them work together with single-use systems seamlessly and in a way that provides a level of process analytics, control, monitoring, etc., that you would get from a traditional stainless steel system. That's the missing link. And that's where many of the suppliers are really putting a lot of focus.
And the organizations that you're working with, the PDA Task Force and the Bioprocess Systems Alliance, they're helping to move in that direction. Is that enough? Does FDA need to be doing some things? What else can the industry be doing to kind of get us to that point?
So I think that there's a level of maturity that's not yet there in this growing piece. The BPSA and the PDA are working in not really in concert, and actually BPSA is a supplier organization, a trade organization. So what we do is try and remove barriers to growth, and we're working on sort of more fundamental issues, not technology-specific issues, but more fundamental issues that challenge the adoption of single-use. Within PDA, we're also working on fundamental issues, but more from an end-user perspective, looking at sort of writing a roadmap for the implementation of single-use. That is, though, more fundamental. It doesn't matter if it's a bag or a sensor or anything else. We try and do it in an open architecture way, not a technology-specific way. So the FDA, though, their position is more, it doesn't matter if it's single-use or multi-use, you've got to meet these requirements. So the supplier base needs to respect that, the end-user base needs to respect that, and we need to put smart single-use solutions in place that serve the process economic model and provide value to the cost of goods or lower cost of goods, and fit within the regulatory framework.
So it sounds like that'll happen. It's just some maturity needs to take place.
That's exactly right. I think the demand is well understood by the supplier base. We are scrambling, and if you know this, like I said, you walk the halls of this of Interflex, and you'll see incremental improvements in the single-use space. Interflex being a once-a-year event, you're seeing pretty substantial incremental improvements year to year. And so it's going to happen. Some technologies may die on the vine because they haven't done their homework and do not meet the process economics and regulatory framework that the end user needs. Others will take off because they do satisfy those requirements.
Well, we'll check back in with you next year, and I'm sure that we'll have a lot more to talk about.
I'm sure we will.
Paul, thanks so much.
Thank you, Paul.
Appreciate joining me.
Great.